Good morning. This is Robert Sitton, and I want to welcome you to my channel here on YouTube. I would like to also say that we truly appreciate all our subscribers. You guys are the ones that we continue to make these videos for. If you have something you'd like to see as far as our garden, go ahead and drop us a comment below, or any kind of questions. We will answer our comments. We may not be the fastest in the world, but I guarantee you we'll get the comments answered. That's my little white Chinese celery plants. Got the seeds from Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds. Didn't sow all the seeds, but I did set out 10 little plants, started them in cups and then transferred them to the garden. Beyond that is 4 zucchini, and out on the end there is, believe it or not, 13 yellow crookneck squash. I know that's a lot, but I intend to share with friends and family, and if I can possibly have an abundance left over, I'm going to take it out to a company that provides boxes of foods to the needy. Here against the fence is my mortgage lifter tomato plants. I intend to tie them to the front fence here. I am noticing something a little disturbing here though. I know we have a little, what I call, flea hopper. Look at the holes in these leaves. They get on the back of the leaf. They get on the back of the leaf and they're just eating them up. I've got some diatomaceous earth that is a food grade. Ordered it through Amazon. I will be out here this evening absolutely covering these leaves up with that dust. It's kind of hard to garden for all the pests. Cabbage plants are very wilted. That's typical in we're in a zone 6B, but the sun really gets hot here this time of year. Today is June the 1st, and by this afternoon they'll be all perked up. I replanted some radishes here, and they too are being devoured by the flea hoppers. I tell you what, this little garden space, actually it's been that way here for years, but these little plants just take a beating from the flea hoppers. And I will have to say, it's amazing that this solar flower lettuce is still bearing. Of course, that is a pick and come again. I planted it, seeds were planted probably the early part of February. I actually transplanted it into the garden on March the 1st. Here today is June the 1st, and it's still bearing. Much to my surprise, it's still sweet tasting. Quite often things in the heat get bitter, especially lettuces. But this variety has really amazed all of us. Every little garden needs flowers. This is a perennial. As you can see, it's drawing butterflies and other little single solitary bees. It is a variety of sage. I planted it last year, and when I purchased it in the pot, it was much smaller, but it was in bloom. And it's gotten larger this year. Hope it gets larger every year. I absolutely love having pollinators in the garden. Here we have some onions that I forgot to dig last year. I'm letting them go to seed. Seed was a little hard to come by this year. I know that was because of COVID-19, but who knows what's going to happen in the coming year, especially up until they can get some type of flu shot for it. I guess they're calling it a vaccine. To me, it's just a flu shot. And there's a few extra cabbages. I have some Blue Lake bunch beans planted here. It will not be long until they're producing. Here on this fence right behind me, that is my green giant sweet peas. I got those seeds from Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds as well. The blooms on these green beauty peas have been very, very pretty. I didn't expect them to be that color. And of course, the little pods, just as they were described, are much larger than I had anticipated. And my vines didn't look good at first, but boy, they sure are healthy now. That fence is about 5 foot, and we lack about maybe 10 inches being to the top of it with most of the plants. And some of them I do still have to take from time to time and put them back to the fence. But I got a nice row of those. Yes, if I'm going to want to eat some of these sugar snap peas as sugar snaps in a stir fry, I'm gonna have to get those things picked here fairly soon. It's amazing just how many little peas are on there. And as I said before, the pods are so much bigger than a normal sugar snap pea. I'm really glad that I tried this variety. This is the new section of the garden, and it's as big as the other garden. I've harvested a lot of the May Queen lettuce, and of course I did have some hillbilly potato leaf tomatoes here. You might say, well, why did you plant them there? Well, I planted them there so I could tie them to this fence and not have to get extra staking. I've never grown leeks. I'd say these leeks here are suffering a little bit from the heat, but by this fall they should be quite large. I have, of course, my turnips that I've still not taken out of the ground, and I do need to get them out before they get much larger. Will not be long at all till this garlic comes up. And these tomatoes, excuse me, not tomatoes, these potatoes that are growing here were quite a surprise. They're growing in amongst my onions. I had carried mulch down here and threw it in. As you can see, this ground wasn't level, so there's hay bales here. And I have put in the hay bales and then filled up with mulch and soil. So those potatoes came up from some potatoes that they were so rotten I didn't think anything could have survived. And they were put there back in early spring. But they've come up through all of that, so I guess we'll leave them. I have some little cucamelons here. That's another little surprise. This is the first year we've ever raised them. I was told they're hard to get to transplant. I started these in cups and I had no problem. There again, I'm a little bit amazed at how well they're growing. Now, the one thing that has just blown me, absolutely blown me away, is I want you to take a look at these leaves on these little apple limbs. I'm not gonna take them off. I'm gonna continue to water them. These are the tops off of my apple trees that I cut off back in the winter. I laid these tops of the trees over in the edge of the little wooded patch behind my garage, and I needed something to stake my cucamelons with, so I went and cut the limbs short and left enough for everything to twirl up. And I was sitting over in the garden the other day looking, and I want you to look. Can you see that, or does it get in focus enough? That's bloom buds. These limbs lay dormant on top of the ground. I know for 3 to 4 months. How in the world can they possibly be trying to branch out here in my garden? Of course, here's my little beets. I look forward to those. I've raised beets as many years ago, and I like beets roasted, but I guess my favorite way is to pickle them in a sweet pickling solution with pickling spices, and I like them with a good big old pot of pinto beans. Pickled beets and beans just go together. These, I've had to water them. They're suffering down here. I've never known this mushroom compost to dry out so fast, but I'm having to keep the water to them. And I didn't finish my sentence, but these are some of the Roma beans I've planted. I'm going to have to mulch those. There is no possible way to get them to grow without it. And I've set out a few cucumbers here to grow on the trellis. These are the ones that were planted first, and they're wilted down now, but once the sun goes down, they'll come back up. Here is our spinach, and it gets some shade and some sun. This afternoon it'll be sunny, but it seems to be thriving. This is some of the leftover tomato plants that will go in the old garden section, and I will soon be down here pruning these. And I did see that this tomato in particular has little blooms on it. I'll pinch those off. I like to keep everything pitched off until my stem gets up and is being tied to that cattle panel. I don't like having my tomatoes close to the ground at all. And I'd already pruned this as a black beauty. I'd pruned the black beauty there once, and I've done some pruning on this one, but I'll get out here early one morning this coming week and bring my snips so I don't accidentally break the vine, and I will do some significant pruning to these. That's really the only it's the last row that I'll have in this side of the garden. But up against this fence, it's not square. There's a little section here, and I have some lettuce seeds that I'll plant there. That little section right there, that little corner where I've got that piece of cardboard laying already, it stays quite shaded, so I will plant some late lettuce, and we'll see if any of it does any good. Our summers do get hot here, but our evenings are quite cool. That's the one joy of living on the plateau, is having cool evenings.